Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a new chess strategy and tactics video. So in this video we'll talk about the endgame stage again. Today we'll talk about a very specific topic in King and Pawn chess endgames, and I think King and Pawn chess endgames are really complicated. Although the game is simplified and there are not so many pieces on the board, there are still so many dirty things that can happen for you for sure. In my opinion, King and Pawn chess endgames bother many of us. Still, I myself mess up the King and Pawn chess endgames in my own classical game, so in my opinion it's a topic that should be discussed further, so that's why I decided to make more videos about this kind of an endgame. So let's see now what's the problem about King and Pawn chess endgames. So when we reach now maybe this kind of a position where we have only the king and the pawn against the king, many times, of course, it's a drawish position. There are many, of course, exceptions of the rule, but basically, black should be very comfortable here. Black should make an easy draw. For instance, white starts to play a king move, will simply step back after a couple more moves. The most important thing here for black is to go into the opposition, so getting into this parallel setup against his opponent king. Now, after something like king to f5, again, we step back, and now when the king comes on f6, we can go into an opposition, again into this parallel setup, and now it's a thematic draw. So these are easy examples. So let's see now a different example. This position is winning for white because, and only because, white has the possibility to play an extra tempo. Even if black reaches the opposition like this, still we have a flexibility to make it maybe a move and forcing him to get out of this opposition. So basically black will be zugzwang, black will be forced to play another move, which gives him then an unpleasant play. Of course, then it's suddenly not a drawish position anymore. Let's see, for instance, we play again the same pattern. We play now the move e7, but now after move king to e8, we can play a forcing move. Now it's black to move again. Now he has to step back from the potential opposition. Now we can play king to d7 and of course promote here the pawn to queen on e8. So okay, these were now easy examples, but I'm showing you this because you see you have to leave yourselves in this types of position the flexibility to play this pawn move. So this pawn move gives us in the later stage of the endgame a good opportunity to maybe when our opponent is reaching the opposition, to get him out of the opposition. So this extra tempo gives us winning opportunities. I'm telling you this because let's reach now this complicated endgame, and it's really a tough one. I'm not saying it's not. Many of us would mess this up, but it's, I think, a beautiful thematic study of this kind of a problem. Notice also that we have here the potential moves that gives us an extra tempo are, I think, the pawn and f5 move and also the pawn to f3 move. So both of these moves should be maybe left for the later stage of the game if our opponent in some maybe lines reaches the opposition. Imagine now we have the pawn, the king on c5. Our opponent has also maybe the king on c7. When he reaches the opposition, what we want to get is then to play the move f3, leave ourselves the flexibility to play the move f3, and when that happens, then your opponent has to step back from the opposition, and then we can again maybe get more access with our king, getting more spaces, and maybe to grab many of the pawns here on the queen side. So that's the idea. So it's now time for you to shine. Pause the video and try to see now here the winning idea for white. And only one move is winning here for white, which is really crazy when you think about it harder. Only one move is winning here. Pause the video if you want to solve maybe this chess puzzle for yourself at home. I'm not saying, as I said, it's an easy one. It's really a tough one. Try to solve it. It's so complicated. You have to be really endgame beast. Probably Magnus Carlsen would solve this, but it's now, as I said, time for you to shine. If you don't want to solve this puzzle for yourself at home, then follow this video because now we're solving this beautiful chess puzzle. So okay, as I said, only one move is here winning for white. So f5, for instance, is not so good because after g takes f5, you are creating maybe a path for the king, but actually with the move g6, black can stop it in any way, so you didn't gain anything. And even if you start maybe to launch your king towards the king side, black will have access also to this square, maybe here this path, and maybe get your get your pawn on c3. So there's no way that you should somehow attack the king side here. The same thing happens also with our pawn move f3. As I said, we want to leave ourselves the flexibility to play later when our opponent wants to reach the opposition. Then we want to play this move f3, not immediately. Now we don't have a path. Our opponent has to now just control these two squares, and we don't have access to this d4 square, and especially also then afterwards to the pawn on c4. Let's see other solutions. So the only winning move here is actually the move king to d1. But it's crazy. Look at this. If we play, for instance, king to e2, the problem is now, after something like king to c5, we can go to e3. And even if our opponent is playing now the move king to e4, and we play now the move f3, we're forcing him to get out of this mess. Although we can even pick up the pawn, but now our opponent is reaching the opposition, as we said, and we don't have a flexible move anymore. The only move that I see for you here is maybe to play the move f5, but as I said, we will simply take it now. Again, after a couple of moves, we will simply play g6, and you don't have access anymore to this position. So look at this. After move king to d4, maybe you don't want to push the pawn on f5 here. Again, we step back. Now, again, black plays the game like in this previous example. He just wants to reach the opposition after something like c5. Again, we step back. Now we go into an opposition again. If white wants to push the pawn again, nothing spectacular. He can play the move g6, but we just play in this opposition idea with the black pieces. You can step back. If you do that, it's even a losing game because you lose this pawn and probably also the pawn on a4. So you see, white doesn't have access with this idea because black reached after move king to c4 the opposition with the move king to c6, but that was only bad because we were forced to play the move f3 in the first place. So let's go to this critical moment. We play king to e3, then king to d5, and now we lost our special card. We lost our ace in the sleeve here with the move f3. This move we want to play later. So let's see also different opportunities. So now we have solved the move king to e2. Let's see, for instance, the move king to f1. The same thing happens. Again, black will simply play around, waiting for us here to come. After move king to d5, when he gets access to the square, again f3, we lost our special card. Now again we have access maybe to the c4 pawn, but after king to c6, black will reach the opposition, and it's again a thematic draw. Again, the same thing happens. Let's go back. If you play here king to d2, immediately again black will have access to the d5 square. Again, you're forced to play the move f3. So as I said, the only winning move is here the move king to d1, but still it's complicated. For instance, let's see now two solutions. Let's see first the move king to c6. If that happens, then I'll go, okay, we can go to d2, and after king to c5, what we should not do is reach now this position, king to e3. This is the position of our previous analysis. Now again, black will have access to the d5 square. We'll be forced to play the move f3, and again the same scenario happens. So you have to play now king to e2 in order to stay in the game. So we're trying to trick him. We're trying to force him to play some moves. After move here king to c6, now we go to f3, and again after something like king to b6, we should not play here to e4 because now again we'll reach the same position. Again, we're forced to play the move f3, and it's a thematic draw. So in order to stay the game, you have to play king to e3, forcing your opponent here to play the move king to c5. But now we are getting the king closer. The king steps back. We get now the king to c5 after move, pardon me, king to d4, and now after king to c4, we have now the opposition, but now we have the flexibility to play the move f3 afterwards. We just launch the pawn. After something like king to b6, which is just pushing the pawn further. Your opponent can step back, but now after this one, king to c6, now we can play f3. A beautiful Zugzwang move. As we said, we left ourselves the flexibility of the f3 move. Now when the king steps back, now we have access to the b5 square, and it's again game over. We'll eventually take out this pawn, and in this kind of an endgame, black is simply lost. So let's go back. After move king to d1, we have discussed the move king to c6. Let's see also king to c5. We go king to e2. Again, after something like king to d5, king to e3 is now the winning idea. Again, we get access to the e4 square. King to c5, as we said, king takes c4. He has the opposition. Again, we just start to push the pawn, but as we said, we have this f3 as a flexibility. Now again, black has to step back from the opposition, and it's again a completely winning endgame here for white. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the study. Please be careful while playing king and pawn chess endgames. This was, I think, a tough one, but really interesting one. But the theme, I think you understand. Leave yourself this extra tempo with this mobile pawn. Try to play first with the king, and then when your opponent reaches the opposition, then you have this extra move. He steps back, and then you get the king closer again into his territory. So, okay, if you want to see more about this kind of endgames, and maybe if you want to see more about chess opening principles and middle game strategies, check out our Basics in Chess series, and also my Become a Master in Chess series from my YouTube chess channel. Here are the links of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.